Let's take a look at sewing a left chest logo in its entirety. So we are going to start by hooping the garment. Get our 1/8 inch recess. Eighth inch. And now we're going to bring this over to the embroidery machine. Now when we get to the machine, since we're starting a new project, we go to needle position 1. And I want to make sure I'm going to be centered. So I'm going to set my hoop up, and then using the pantograph adjustment control, the arrow keys, we want to be centered on the rubber band. Now that we're centered, we can remove the hoop. I'm going to put my garment on around the collar, let everything hang down, make sure it's all the way in, and then you always want to run your hand inside, make sure you're not going to be sewing the front and back of the garment together. And now we have to set the home position. So we're going to go into home, we're going to go down to set start, enter, enter. We've now set our starting point. Now I'm going to put in my design. So we'll put in our USB. And in order to do that, if I try to do that now, it's not going to bring us in because we're in an embroidery status. We want to get out of embroidery status. Now we're going to go into input design from memory. Enter. And it shows us all of our designs. Now I find the design that I'm looking for. It's actually right here. I missed it. Enter. It's telling me where it's going to store that design. Enter. Now that design is stored in the memory of the machine. I can now take my USB key out of here. Now we're going to select the design that we're going to embroider. And it's in room number 1. That's the design. Enter. I'm not going to rotate it or anything. Now I need to set the colors. So for the first color, we're going to use a light blue. We'll go up to our first color. So that's needle 2. For the second color, we're going to use a red. That's number 7. Then the border around it, I'll do that in black. It's number 6. Then I'm going to reverse these two, so I'm going to go 7, then 2. Then I'm going to use number 7 again. Then I'm going to use, that mustardy color. That's on needle 14. And then the last color, I want that to be like a metallic-y type color, so I'll use that light gray. That's 13. And I want to make sure I hit the enter key to lock those values in. We've already set our start point. Now we need to trace. So So we go into the home function, we go down to the contour range check, enter. We now watch the number 1 needle, make sure it fits. And that fit perfectly fine. Now, let's reset. It didn't go back to our starting point, so I'm just going to check my start point again. And I'm going to check my contour range check again. You can't do this too many times. You want to make sure that you're not going to hit a hoop. And that's coming a little close. Okay, so I know I can move that up a little bit. And I can move it over a little bit. Reset that, my start point, and then check it again. Okay, that fits fine. The last thing we want to do is check our speed. I'm going to sew this at about 800 stitches per minute and hit start. Okay, we went back to no display here. That's indicating that the design has completed. Okay. Cut that thread. Take this off. Now, we have a finished design. Now we need to trim the backing, so we'll unhoop it. And the way I like to trim the backing is I like to flip it inside out. And we want to trim all these little stitches down, so when you're wearing it, it doesn't irritate you. And then I like to hold this like this and just trim the backing. And we want to be somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch away. Now, whenever you get to any place where you're making a turn, you never make points, never corners, always rounded areas. Points poke people, and we don't want to be irritating the skin. And you can see what I'm looking at from this side. I'm just letting the weight hang down, pulling away from the stitches, and I'm just coming around it. Until we get back to where we started. And that's how we trim the backing out, unless it's tear away. If it's tear away, of course, we would just tear it away. And then the last thing we would do, or we could do that ahead of time, depending on which way you prefer to do it, is if there are any jump stitches in here, we would take a pair of trimming scissors and trim those out. And that is how we sew a flap.